course of the tour. Please hold until the end. I will do a full question and answer session then. Also, if you'd like to take photographs or videos, yeah, by all means, feel free, certainly. Finally, I want to take the opportunity now to properly greet you all, if I may. Welcome to the Reed House Hotel, probably the most prestigious hotel in Chattanooga, if I do say so myself. Indisputably the oldest. The original Reed House first opened its doors here January 1st of 1872. The building we're standing in this evening, well, that was built on the foundations of that first one. This building first took in guests in 1926. That is 99 years of history if you only count this building. You put them both together though, and we have been here for 153 years now without closing once. We have stayed open through floods, fires, wars, depressions, pandemics. Nothing shut us down. We are the oldest continuously open hotel in the entire Southeast. There's an old saying, however, that given a long enough timeline, everybody's life expectancy drops to zero. And given a timeline of 153 years, thousands of people checking in and out every year, it's inevitable. Some people will be here on the premises when they pass away. And occasionally that passing will not be pleasant. I'm going to give you an example now. Show you what I mean.
Oh boy.
You see, before the Reed House was here, there was another hotel on this same property, Crutchfield House, owned by one of Chattanooga's first mayors, Colonel Thomas Crutchfield. Crutchfield House was open between 1847 and 1867 when it burned down in a freak accident. Of course, this means Crutchfield House was here right in the thick of the American Civil War. As a matter of fact, immediately after the Battle of Chattanooga, September of 1863, the Union Army commandeered Crutchfield House, taking it over as soon as they captured the city. They converted it into a field hospital and treated something like 500 battle casualties here in one day. Now, of course, not all those casualties pulled through. And when that would occur, well, the bodies would be taken to the basement where a temporary morgue was established. Which goes back to what I was telling you a moment ago about people passing away on the premises. You see, folks,
Annalisa Netherly is not the only ghost walking our halls at night.
she's simply the most notorious. So here we are to visit her room, room 311. Still the same door as was here on the night of her murder, or so they tell me. And still the same lock and key. Last hotel room in the building with an old-fashioned mechanical lock. So step right in, folks. Step back into the 20th century with me. Welcome to room 311.
Oh my gosh.
Now the hotel underwent a major renovation back in 2018. They spent close to $30 million all put together. A significant amount of that money was spent right here, restoring 311 to its 1920s glory days. So, in the interest of full disclosure, allow me to point out that none of the furnishings or the fixtures that you see here this evening were actually here on the night of the murder, but everything here is an authentic 1920s period antique. The standing ashtray here, for example, definite 20th century artifact here. You simply do not find these in modern hotel rooms, at least not in this country. Could really tell you about Europe. I want to point this out next because someone on almost every tour that I bring through comments on it, the ceiling fans. They've got the twin helicopter propeller style blades as opposed to the 5-blade model that you see with most modern fans, but as you can tell, it still pumps up a very nice breeze. And as you can see, it was obviously installed back when people tended to be a little shorter than they are today. Not really a problem for myself. Oh, but some of the taller guests I bring on these tours, it's kind of fun to watch. Come through the door, see the fan, and survival instinct kicking in. Now, my own personal favorite of the antiques here, the room service secretary's telephone. This is a one-of-a-kind instrument. Never seen a phone even remotely like it anywhere else. And it comes with all the bells and whistles, too. Brass fittings, ivory mouth and earpieces, marble writing desk. We're taking notes while you're on the phone. Naturally, you've got the old-school rotary dial and the little switch here beside it. Now, this is kind of clever. Flip the switch, lift the receiver, you're automatically patched in. Within 5 minutes, either housekeeping or the engineering department, the maintenance department, would be knocking on the door. And to be honest, we pretty much have trouble making that happen today, more often than not. All right, if you care to join me here in the boudoir next. And here we are, the bedroom part of the suite. Not that plush by modern standards, but sizable enough to more than make up for it. And I want to go ahead and address this next because it's another item guests always ask about. In fact, once they notice it, pretty much grabs their attention for this leg of the tour. Now, the art over the bed is actually the newest thing in the room. We got this about 4 years ago, from our sister hotel out of Charleston, the Vendue. Now, the Vendue has an art gallery attached, and one of the artists in residence there was commissioned to create this, especially for room 311, just to lend a little atmosphere to the place. Frankly, if you ask me, it does the job a little too well. I have had some tours where I brought guests in here. They see that start to flutter around and they bolt right back out the door. Next, I want to direct your attention to the windows. If you care to step over, open up the shears and peek through, you'll notice two things immediately. First thing being, good God, that has to be the most depressing view from a hotel window I've seen in my life. And the second thing, of course, the bars mounted in the windows, which struck me as a really weird thing for a high-end hotel to have when I first started work here. So I asked our hotel historian, Mr. Logue, so what's up with the bars in 311? Well, according to him, the bars were installed for the benefit of this gentleman whose picture we have here. You're all way too young to remember him from real life, but if you're a fan of gangster movies, you're familiar with the name. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Al Capone, king of Chicago's organized crime syndicates in the 1920s, the original Scarface, probably the most notorious gangster in 20th century American history. Although you will notice, if you look closely at his police rap sheet here, he preferred to list his occupation as gambler. Well, the gambler's luck ran out in 1931. He was on his way down from Chicago. He'd just been sentenced there in federal court, not for racketeering or bootlegging or even murder, but for income tax evasion, the one charge they were ever able to pin on him and make stick. And he was on his way from the courthouse in Chicago down to the federal penitentiary in Atlanta to begin serving 11 years for tax fraud. Now, he would later be transferred to Alcatraz Island. Turns out he was getting a little friendly with the staff and management in Atlanta. The word was he pretty much had the run of the prison there, was tipping the prison guards like they were bellhops. So they simply shifted him to a place where he didn't have so much clout. But that is a whole nother story. What we're focused on here is how we got down to Atlanta, because moving a prisoner around the country back in the 1930s, well, it presented a little bit of a challenge. It was 1931. There was no Con Air at the time, and the interstate highway system wouldn't be up and running for another 25 or 30 years at least. So getting a prisoner to prison back in the day, well, it took some time and some serious planning. You had to load them in a car with a couple of guards. You had to go on a road trip, and with no interstates, well, that trip could take days. In this case, they got as far as Chattanooga, and they pulled into the Reed House for the evening. Now, I've been told that the standard procedure for these prisoner transports, once they would reach a hotel at night, normally they would simply take the prisoner down cellar. That is, they would find a secure room in the basement with a good sturdy lock on the door, usually the pantry, and they put the prisoner there for the night. Mr. Capone, however, being a good bit more notorious and considerably wealthier than your average convict, well, he kicked up a fuss. Absolutely not. No way was he going to spend his last night outside prison locked in our basement next to the canned corn. Fortunately, as I mentioned, he was extremely wealthy. Wealthy enough to be able to afford having bars installed in the windows here with just a few hours' notice. Long story short, Al Capone got to spend one last night in a luxury hotel suite before going into the big lockup. And I have to assume, at least I'd really like to think, that the hotel desk clerk working that day was a bit of a joker. Saw Capone's paperwork pop up and was like, "Hey fellas, check this out. Look who we got spending the night with us tonight. Man, we got Al Capone himself checking in here." Oh, and you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna put him up in that room where we had that murder committed a few years ago. Make him feel right at home. And that, folks, is where we come to our main story. Thereby hangs the tale of Annalisa Netherly. Now, Annalisa and her husband checked into the Reed House room 311 back in the spring of 1927. Small world. Well, they were from Chicago too. Mr. Netherly was an executive with a construction firm up there. He was in town to oversee some projects that had been approved for the Chattanooga area. And he brought his beautiful young wife, Annalisa, with him on a working vacation. Yep, they only planned to be here a week, maybe 10 days tops. Unfortunately, things did not quite work out that way. Seems that every project Mr. Netherly was involved in went completely off the rails for one reason or another. Equipment malfunctions, weather delays, property line disputes, supply issues. Well, it was Murphy's Law in action. Anything that could go wrong went wrong big time. So those 10 days they planned on spending here, have stretched into 2 weeks, and then 3 weeks, and then a full month. Now, after the first couple of weeks pass, Mr. Netherly is forced to start making trips back to Chicago to try to pacify the board of directors at his firm. His bosses are not happy with the lack of progress down here. They want answers, and they want them straight from his mouth. No telegrams accepted. Well, it was decided that it would be too expensive to have both Netherlys constantly commuting back and forth, to say nothing of the wear and tear physically and emotionally. So, in what turned out to be a horrifically bad decision, Mr. Netherly leaves Annalisa here at 311, gives her a small allowance and also standing orders to stay put, be a good girl, hold down the fort, stay out of trouble. Regrettably, Annalisa had problems with the orders. And look, I gotta tell you, I sympathize with her. Well, you have to look at this from her perspective. Walk in her shoes a bit. Now, here we have this, this beautiful, beautiful young lady, a city girl from the big city of Chicago. Now that is an action-packed town, folks. There's something always happening there, every minute of every day. And you can double up on that back during the roaring 20s. So you take this city girl, used to a life of non-stop excitement, and you drop her off here. Sleepy little town of 1920s Chattanooga. She doesn't know a living soul in this town, doesn't have a single friend within 600 miles, and she is stuck all day in this little set of rooms. Nothing to see, nothing to do, nowhere to go. Day after day after day. Long story short, Annalisa Netherly got bored, and I really cannot find it in my heart to judge her over that. Well, to deal with that boredom, she started hanging around down in the billiards room, which we still have downstairs. Started hanging out there, started making the acquaintance of young gentlemen there playing pool. Yeah, they get to talking to each other, they get to know each other a little, and well, as the saying goes, the heart wants what it wants. And if the chemistry happened to be right, yep, they very well might end up back here for the evening, getting to know each other a little bit better. Now, pretty soon word starts to get around about this beautiful young lady with an eye for the gentleman and the exotic name of Annalisa, staying at the Reed House. You see, some of Annalisa's temporary boyfriends were traveling salesmen, and once they finish business at Chattanooga, well, they move on to the next town on their circuit, where, after hours, they hang out with each other. They talk shop, they gossip, they brag. Well, all that gossip spread. Word of Annalisa spread all the way to Chicago, as it turns out. And Mr. Netherly, a very cruel and jealous man, by the way, Mr. Netherly gets wind of the shenanigans going on behind his back. He does not take it well. He catches the next train back to Chattanooga. He comes bursting in here that night, and he finds Annalisa in here with a young fella. Well, Mr. Netherly grabs that boy, drags him outside, thrashes him within an inch of his life. He then returns to 311. He grabs Annalisa, drags her into the bathroom, throws her into the tub, grabs his straight edge shaving razor, I will spare you the gory details of what happened next. No need for me to get too graphic. No need to get gross. Let's just say that the housekeeper found a very nasty surprise the next morning. Yeesh. Folks, you can come on in now. It's safe. Now, you can search the police records of Chattanooga all you like. You will not find a whisper of anything I've told you here. Having said that, I'd like you to keep three things in mind, please. First, Mr. Netherly was a wealthy businessman from out of town. Second, his wife, also from out of town, with no living relatives in the area to raise any fuss over her, well, his wife was apparently fooling around on him. Which brings me to number three. It was the 1920s, it was the Deep South. Don't think I need to connect the dots for you here. You see, back then and there, what went on between a man and his wife, no matter how brutal and nasty it got, the law might be persuaded under certain circumstances to turn a blind eye. Especially, I might add, if the people doing the persuading had a lot of influence locally and a little grease for the skids. For instance, a hotel management who wanted to hush up a scandal. But here's the thing, folks. If the hotel was involved in a cover-up to protect their reputation, turned out not to help a bit. You see, from that day forward, right up until we took this room out of regular circulation only a few years ago, well, yeah, getting someone to spend a full night in 311. Well, that turned into what we in the hotel business call a very hard dollar. The people will still check in, but within a few hours, they'd be back at the front desk. They'd be wanting a room transfer, they'd be wanting a refund, or they'd be wanting out of here. It seems you can only stay in 311 for a fairly short amount of time these days before you start to get this very, very nervous, uneasy, kind of skin-crawling sensation. It's like you're being watched, and you're being watched by something that does not like you. People would claim they'd be sitting on the bed, and suddenly they'd feel someone plop down on the mattress right next to them. They'd turn around, there'd be nothing there. Along the same lines, some of the few gentlemen to make it through a full night in 311 would report the next morning, well, that they'd been here in the bathroom, that they'd been shaving. And suddenly in the mirror, they would spot the image, the reflection of a beautiful young girl in a blood-drenched gown. They'd turn around and find nothing. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the tour, if you wish to take photographs, by all means, feel free, go for it. Don't be shy. Just don't be surprised if Annalisa photobombs these pictures. It's been known to happen, folks. Not every picture, not all at once, but some of the pictures taken in these rooms, including a few I've seen myself, well, they develop strange little images on the film. Little otherworldly glowing orbs of light appear from no noticeable source. Shadows are cast on the wall where there is nothing human to cast a shadow. I have even seen a picture or two where the very wallpaper patterns seem to shift a bit to resemble screaming faces. Radio reception at 311 also got peculiar. A lot of buzz and crackle, a lot of static and feedback. And it has been said that no matter what station you're listening to, rock, country, pop music, whichever it is, you listen long enough, and in between songs in the background, you will start to hear 1920s jazz. Tell you one last thing about 311, then let you settle in for the rest of your stay with us. We still ran 311 out. Now, the season for it, still pretty far down the calendar as we speak, but it is coming back as sure as death. You see, every Saturday night in October, leading up to, and most especially including, Halloween night, 311 goes back on the market. Now, if you Google Annalisa Netherly 311, one of your search results is going to be a news story from the local NBC station, WRCB. Yeah, they did a human interest piece a few years ago on a couple who spent Halloween here in 311. And that couple, they checked in as skeptics. But they left, and left early, I might add. Oh yes, they left as true believers in Annalisa Netherly. So, any questions?
No, I just want to take some photos. This is great.
All right.
Like and subscribe.